Hi, my name is Joseph and welcome to part 13 of Chapter 1 of Digimon Seekers Eiji Wolf of the Ninth Avenue. Part 13 picks up with the ragged-clad Sons of Chaos Digimon looking out across Eiji and Logomon as they leave, and he states to someone who's not there that he was unaware they were going to be mind-linked. This individual that the ragged-clad Digimon is speaking to is revealed to be the interviewer, the Sons of Chaos interviewer from about 2 parts ago, and he agrees that he was also unaware that they'll be mind linked. They both agree that this test, the semi-difficulty A test that they have given to Logomon and Eiji, is more than likely going to be much too simple because they recognize who Logomon is. He's the demon wolf. Excuse me, the wording is a little bit wonky. The demon wolf of the castle of 9 wolves. They recognize he's one of those, a wolf essentially. We don't get much detail beyond that. This phrase is once again stated just like with the previous part when Chumon first comes across Logomon. So they make the choice to make the test harder, and it ends at that portion. Rather, the page break ends at that portion. This adjustment to the test is it a positive or a negative thing? It's left more as a neutral statement. And after the page break, it goes off to Logomon and Eiji. As it turns out, supposedly Logomon knows a shortcut, and the shortcut involves utilizing a subway station, a subway train. And Eiji is shocked to discover that the subway train is very much like the one from his own home, from the real world, the Tokyo Metro line. There's a weird language with rules even. He's unaware, Eiji's unaware what his language is stating. Logomon, matter-of-factly, just states the signs are saying no fighting within the train station. Eiji, let me go back to my notes, because I'm going without it. San says no causing trouble on subway. Logomon states that the public space, it's important to mind one's manners. And after he states this, he actually makes a choice to lay down on the seats, and he takes up about 3 spaces. The other Digimon around Logomon and Eiji, they're a little bit annoyed about this, but it's not transgressing any behavior that's meant to be frowned upon on the subway. They might be annoyed, but Logomon's not breaking any rules technically. So, Ichi is a little bit restless, partly due to the fact that he does not understand the language around him. Excuse me, everyone, my cat's in front of my notes. Ichi asks Logomon, oh wow, since he's really can't do much except think and self-reflect, Ichi asks Logomon if doing this mind link, it's a little bit like riding another individual, so kind of like the analogy being used, kind of like an individual riding a horse, but Eiji more specifically, that's my own personal analogy. Eiji specifically uses the analogy of Chumon riding Damimon, if maybe mind linking isn't like that, the relationship in that regard, and Logomon actually gets a little bit offended, and he says, don't compare me to that piece of, quite literally, a turd. And after that, Eiji asks Logomon, would it be okay if I could pet you? Eiji thinks about this because he likes the way that Logomon's sitting on his on the chairs. His paw pads are exposed. If anyone's ever owned a cat or a dog or any other kind of mammal with paw pads, they understand that that's actually quite cute sometimes, right? So Eiji asks Logomon, can I pet you? And Logomon bares his gums and his fangs, and he starts growling at Eiji. And Eiji states, well, my dog, my real world dog, used to be like this as well. He didn't like being pet by me. And Logomon becomes offended once again, and he says, I'm getting tired of hearing about your stories about your dog. I'm going to kick you out of my Digicore if you keep talking about that dog. And then Logomon actually states in kind of a rude way, the reason why your dog did not like you petting him is because he used you. He knew you gave him food and shelter, but he did not want an actual relationship beyond that. Excuse me? Oh, excuse me, my cat. She keeps going in front of my notes. Then after that, Logomon asks Eiji to think about his body, what's going on with his body. And Eiji thinks about it for a couple seconds and he realizes, oh, if I'm over here subconsciously, then my conscious body, that's more than likely back at my loft and it's asleep. And Logomon states that he confirms that that's exactly what's going on. And then it's confirmed that if Eiji does not break the mind link, that Eiji will remain unconscious in the real world. He will never wake up. And Eiji actually, instead of becoming nervous or anxious, states, oh, well, I'm fine with that. And Logomon actually states, that's fine. That's verbatim from the part. And then, oh, excuse me, I jumped the gun a little bit. After this conversation, that's when Eiji asks if you could pet Logomon and Logomon becomes obsessed. Excuse me, everyone. I should have been looking at my notes. I'm not gonna lie. I'm doing my best to go off more from memory, so I won't have to look down as often, just to be more organic. And I'm also sometimes when my cat goes in front of my notes, that is a little bit of a obstacle too. So I do thank you for your patience. So I have a verbatim right here. I'll kick you out of my Digicore if you keep feeding me that nonsense. He's talking about the stories that Eiji keeps sharing about his real life dog, his real world dog. So again, Logomon explains that his real world dog never thought of Eiji as his master. He just used him. Excuse me, everyone, just move my notes out of the way. So as they continue riding the train, Eiji notices that a lot of the Digimon, they do pass multiple stations. At some of the stations, of course, some Digimon get off while others come on. And Eiji notices that a lot of the Digimon are quite shocked to see Eiji on the train. And Eiji asks Logomon about this, and Logomon states, well, it's rare to see humans on the Digimon subway train. And Eiji makes the real life analogy, well, I guess that makes sense. It'll be like if I hollow-ized a Digimon onto the Japan Metro line. Of course, people would be confused about that as well, right? Eiji does notice a lot of the Digimon are clustered together. As it turns out, some of these Digimon are corrupted data or they're injured. And Logomon actually explains that these Digimon who live in Waslum, they're all discarded Digimon. They're Digimon that code crackers are utilizing before, not just code crackers, but also businesses, government agencies, and the military for security purposes. And any Digimon that code crackers utilize that fail in their duties, or any Digimon that higher position organizations, such as again the government, military, or corporations, any Digimon that fail in the security purposes, they all end up in Waslum. Not just those kind of Digimon, but also, I am jumping ahead a little bit, but I think it's part and it's more organic to discuss this right now. Logomon also reveals that some Digimon who choose to stray away from humans as well, they're also living in Waslum. Excuse me. So essentially, the Digimon that are living in Waslum are mostly abandoned Digimon, and it's getting to the point, abandoned Digimon who make the choice to not work with humans, and Digimon who have been corrupted. They can no longer go back to the digital world. As a quick reminder, the Waslum is not the digital world. It's just on the surface, the top part of the digital world. The digital world is actually deeper within the Waslum. And any Digimon that's been corrupted by interacting with human data or with humans, the human network, they are not allowed to return to the digital world. Why aren't they allowed to return? Eiji notices a peak in the middle of Waslum, and he asks Logomon, what is that? And Logomon explains that it's the walk gate. It's this walk gate. Eiji realizes this walk gate prevents code crackers and humans from entering the digital world, but then Logomon explains it's not just humans, but also, again, corrupted Digimon. Eiji asks, well, who came up with that rule? Who came up with that set of criteria? And Logomon explains, well, it's kind of akin to kind of like a quote-unquote a god from the human perspective. Some digital individual with a lot of power of godlike status or akin to godlike status, they're the ones who made this decision. They're the ones that made this rule. Excuse me, everyone. Let me go back to my notes. So I did jump the gun a little bit, but it's fine. It's organically connected. As they're on the train still, they're underground. They go onto the surface. They breach a little river area. Everything's described as being polluted. The sky is polluted. The river area is dirty looking. And apparently those Chumon are over the place. And Logomon explains that all the Digimon here are constantly hungry. And because of this, each neighborhood actually has a boss because there's constantly fighting going on. Kind of like turf wars a little bit. But rather than fighting for turf, they're fighting for food. There's only 2 areas in Waslum where it's free from fighting, and that's on the Metro Station and Avenue Zero. So let me double check that. Yes, Avenue Zero and the subway station are the only areas in Waslum with a non-combatant agreement. Excuse me. Yes, so it's explained, excuse me, I just moved my laptop by accident. It's explained that Waslum has always been personally affected or directly affected by the human network. And any Digimon that do die, they return to as Digitama, but the rest who do survive, they end up living in Waslum. So Waslum was created by discarded Digimon and only exists for discarded Digimon by discarded Digimon. Eiji asks Logomon if he knows what's on the other side of the digital gate, and at this point, It's a little bit suspicious. Logomon seems to choose to ignore Eiji, and he gets up as an announcer on the train states that their next stop is 9th Avenue, and then Eiji asks Logomon if he recognizes anything. Eiji realizes that Logomon has a past, a history. He's never thought about asking it, so he makes this chance to go ahead and ask him about his past. And Logomon states that he's not aware. Excuse me, I'm going a little bit too ahead. Before this, Eiji, when they get up for their stop, Logomon states he may not know what it is that he's looking for, but he'll recognize it when he finds it. And it's because of this statement that Eiji asks Logomon, you seem to be familiar with the Waslam. Do you have any history here? And now we're caught up with what I was discussing. Before Eiji asks Logomon's history, he realizes and acknowledges that he's never asked him about his past, because again, he's barely realizing that, as Logomon explained, and Professor Ruzenji, that Digimon are individuals. And Logomon explains that no, he seems to have amnesia. When he tries to recall events from his past, he only recalls when he was young, and that's mostly it. But he's noticing that as he comes across things that when he comes across things that he recognizes, he's slowly recalling memories. That's why he believes it's not really amnesia, because amnesia usually means that all your memories are gone. And that's why he's hopeful that as they enter 9th Avenue, that he'll recognize some other elements. That's why Logomon stated earlier, he'll recognize. He'll know what he's looking for once he finds it. He does believe that there's something in 9th Avenue that's meant for him, and that's where this part ends. We're going to read from that directly right now. Just give me a quick second. I'm going to read verbatim. Logomon says, I'll know when I get there. So that's what makes Eiji ask him, does he know anything about 9th Avenue? Give me a quick second. Everyone make sure I didn't skip anything. The wall gate controls the flow of data. We discussed that already. No, yes, it is everything. So, as always, let's read the last portion verbatim. So, the sudden Logomon had been stored in the Digimon linker form. Logomon had been stored in the Digimon linker from its first growth state. Eiji hadn't bothered to ask what Logomon had done elsewhere. Eiji didn't even know that Digimon had a past. I don't remember. Logomon states this because Eiji asks, you sure seem to know a lot about Waslam, Logomon. Have you lived here before? The sudden confusion confuses Eiji. Huh? My memory is hazy from one moment to the next. I was a kid growing up in this Waslam, but I only remember when I was a kid growing up. I remember absolutely nothing after that. It says he knows. Logomon says he knows about the. Excuse me, let me start over. It's the translation, excuse me. Logomon says he knows about the digital world and Waslam, but he can't remember much about it itself. What was he doing here? Amnesia? It didn't seem all that complete though. When I tried to remember, it's like there's a haze around my digicore, like a foggy memory. I remember Chumon and the others saying something of interest. They seem to know about you, know a lot about you even. I came to Waslam with you, and as I listened to the stories, I think I began to remember them, little by little. So that's why I might know when I get there. I get the feeling there's something to 9th Avenue, something that's very important to me. So that's where part 13 ends. As always, we're going to go to the first quote that I found of interest, and it's the demon. This is when the ragged-clad Digimon is speaking with his Sons of Chaos interviewer, his partner, the demon wolf of the castle of the 9 wolves. Won't mapping 9th Avenue be a piece of cake for him? The ragged-clad Digimon expresses its concern. You're right, that won't be a semi-A difficulty test for them. I'll make a few adjustments to the test. The interviewer is obviously up to something. So I want to review this just because I think it's really interesting, because in the previous part, excuse me everyone, my cat's on top of my notes. In case anyone forgot, in the previous part, the ragged-clad Digimon actually states, I pray you will pass for Tadara's sake, the test that they're doing, Eiji and Logomon. For Tadara's sake, I hope the day will come when I could call you a member of SOC, or Sons of Chaos. So again, that was from the previous part, yet in this beginning portion, we're seeing that they don't have any qualms, they being Sons of Chaos, the interviewer and his Digimon, of making the test more difficult, yet it's seeming like they want Eiji and Logomon to be part of the Sons of Chaos. I think this is textual evidence to suggest that the Sons of Chaos It's not as black as white as the readers may expect them to be. I don't think there's just going to be an antagonistic force from the get-go. Or let me rephrase that. Obviously, they are being set up as an antagonistic force, and I think at first we'll view them in that way, but eventually it's going to change, and we're going to realize, we being the audience and Eiji, oh wait, these Sons of Chaos, what they're attempting to do, there's actually some merit to it. Maybe it's a little bit like Professor Ruzenji again. At the beginning, I explained that I don't think the professor would be an antagonistic force, but he obviously has some hidden agendas. Just sounds so negative, but he has some hidden objectives that he's not sharing completely with Eiji. Are these hidden objectives inherently toxic, inherently negative? We won't know until we see the full extent of what the professor is trying to do. And I think maybe the Sons of Chaos is operating the same way. And what if the professors and Eiji end up working with the Sons of Chaos and working as in trying to achieve the same goal, that wouldn't really surprise me. But we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about that. So I just found that really interesting that they're acknowledging who Logomon is. He's obviously a demon wolf of the Nine Wolves, or what is it? One of the demon wolf of the Castle of the Nine Wolves. So we need to make this test harder for these partners. Yet despite this, they're hoping that they will join the Sons of Chaos. I am curious if they're hopeful that they'll join the Sons of Chaos, if it's because of Logomon specifically, because they recognize Logomon, or just because they want more members in general. So yeah, the second quote I want to look at, excuse me everyone, I'm not going to lie, my cat's fur, it's floating everywhere, she's shedding her fur, so I might be rubbing my nose a little bit. Excuse me. So the next quote: the information is displayed in characters Eiji has never seen before. The advertisements inside the train and at the station are completely unreadable. What is this? Digimon language? It's forbidden to cause trouble on this subway. Logomon speaks matter-of-factly, so no fighting. This is a public space. You should mind your manners. Logomon lies down, taking up the space of about 3 seats. The Digimon around them look annoyed, but it's not a breach of manners. Not that Eiji knows what Digimon manners are. So there's 2 components I want to look at. The first part is, I think it's really interesting how Logomon does not address Eiji's questions directly. That's something that he seems to have been doing throughout this part. And it makes me curious, maybe in the previous part as well. Whenever Eiji has a question, Logomon, instead of addressing it directly, he seems to encourage Eiji to think about what's been asked and to come up with the question himself. So the part of that is right here. What is this Digimon language? It's forbidden to cause trouble on the subway. Logomon speaks matter-of-factly. Right? So instead of just saying, so this is the Digimon language, Logomon just directly states, this is what it translates to. This is what it states. Again, I think that is textual evidence to support what I stated in the past part of Logomon. He seems to be an impatient individual, yet he still does seem to have patience. He's oxymoronic in that way. If he wanted to ignore Eiji completely, he could have done so, yet he does make the choice to interact with Eiji, just not directly. It's forbidden to cause trouble on the subway, so no fighting. Again, Logomon having Eiji to think about what's being stated and why it's being, or rather what's being listed and why it's being listed. Where they're on the subway, they're surrounded by Digital monsters or Digimon. Maybe it's a good idea to remind everyone, no fighting on the train, right? The second part I want to look at is just after Logomon states, this is a public space, you should mind your manners. He then lies down, taking up space, 3 seats of space. I do not think this was a coincidence or an accident in doing this. I do believe it's meant as characterization for Logomon. Again, indicating that he has agency. He doesn't mind employing his own agency, but sometimes he also doesn't mind employing his agency when it encroaches upon other people. But the important thing to keep in mind right here is that it is stated the Digimon around them look annoyed, but it's not a breach of manners. So it makes me wonder if the tram was full. I would hope that Logomon will not do this. I think he's only doing this because one has the opportunity to do so. But just like in real life, just because one is able to do so, should one do that action, right? For Logomon, he believes he should do that action. Why? I think it stems a little bit from, I don't want to call it arrogance or egotism, but it seems to stem from that sort of place. Hopefully, we'll get more about this characterization as we continue reading. But so far, I think we being the audience, we are meant to think about Logomon's behavior, but not meant to condemn him quite yet. Right? Hopefully, Eiji and Logomon will grow from one another. And typically, that does what happens in Digimon. The human partners utilize elements from the digital partners and vice versa, and they grow from one another. They're two halves of one whole, essentially, right? That analogy. But yeah, I just found this line really funny. The first part, I like how Logomon seems to want Eiji to think for himself. And the second part, where just Logomon says, "Mind your manners. Let me just go ahead up and take this space since it's available to me," right? Both kind of cute, but also a little bit rude. So that quote is just for characterization. Let me make sure. Yeah, so the next quote, Eiji is fidgety and restless, partly because he can't read the characters on the information signs, which are apparently all in Digimon language. I was thinking about the mind link, he says to Logomon. I wonder if my relationship with your Digicore is like a human riding a Digimon, kind of like the Chumon was riding the Damimon. Don't compare me to that piece of poo. So it's not like that. Not at all. What's going on with your real body right now? What? Ichi's consciousness is now inside of Logomon's Digicore. If his body is not here, it must be leaning against the wall in his loft back home. Yes, your body is still sleeping. Unless you break the mind link, you will never regain consciousness. Huh. Well, that's fine, I guess. That's fine. So I want to stop right here because I think this is textual evidence for what I stated previously, how Logomon wants Eiji to think for himself. Well, right off the bat, again, more characterization of Logomon. He doesn't like specific analogies. I only think the only reason why he doesn't like being compared to Damimon is just because of Damimon's shape. And Damimon was more shaped as like Machindramon or I can't think of any other machine-like Digimon at the moment who would be mech-like or rideable. But I think essentially what I'm trying to state, if Damimon looked cooler, was not in the shape of a turd, maybe Logomon would not be as offended with that comparison. But I think this is a very apt comparison. Essentially what Eiji is stating here is that the mind link is a lot like in real life when one is in a partnership. So when a jockey rides their horse, they're working together in unison. Right here, it's being done both figuratively and literally, right? Just via consciousness rather than physically one's body. And yeah, I do think this analogy is apt, but obviously it's figurative because again, it's not as if Eiji is riding Logomon. He's not riding him as if it's a Game of Thrones episode and riding a direwolf or something like that. Right? I'm not gonna lie, I can't see myself, so hopefully I did not look too ridiculous when when I did that movement. But yeah, and the second part I want to look at is again, it's textual evidence for Logomon having Eiji to think for himself, not at all what's going on with your body right now. So Logomon here highlighting, I think what would have been better stated here, you're close, Eiji, but that's not exactly what's going on. What's going on with the real body right now? So elaboration or clarification. But Eiji states, excuse you, or what? And he starts thinking to himself. I'm going to assume he's thinking to himself, and again, I do wish we had the original translation because there's no quotation marks around this portion. Eiji's consciousness is now inside of the Logomon's Digicore. If his body is not here, it must be leaning against the wall in his loft back home. I'm going to deduce that this is Eiji thinking to himself. He's contemplating and deducing what Logomon just asked him and looking at the information around him. Yes, your body is still sleeping. Unless you break the mind link, you will never regain consciousness. So right here, the yes, I think this is Logomon seeing Eiji, thinking, and realizing, oh, this is the answer. And there's really no need of acknowledgement. Again, that matter-of-factness, no need to state the obvious. You know the answer now, so here's the conclusion to what you just discovered. And then lastly, the So this part should make a lot of people nervous. If this was real, your body is still sleeping. Unless you break the mind link, you will never regain consciousness. Eiji should feel a little bit nervous, some anxiety, maybe not fear, but some form of those three of emotions, right? Yet his response is what? Well, that's fine, I guess. And Logomon states, and he replies, that's fine. This really reminds me of the previous part when Eiji made the choice to hollowize himself. He didn't know what was going to happen. He just thought to himself, well, if I'm able to do this with Logomon in the real world with the linker strap, maybe I could utilize the same function in the digital world via the linker strap. And Logomon says that, well, Eiji, you're rather stupid. Maybe stupid is not the correct word. Maybe it's brave. Maybe you're actually being brave. I think this is more textual evidence of support for Logomon. Is my partner an idiot? Or maybe he's much more braver than I'm giving him credit for, right? Again, instead of being nervous or apprehensive, Eiji seems to be taking this information, the fact that he might go into a coma, or his consciousness in the real world will never come, or rather his consciousness in the digital world will not return to him in the real world. That does not faze Eiji. Is that something to be proud of? Something to highlight? when I say proud of, right? Wow, you're brave, Eiji. Is that something to discredit? Now, maybe not discredit, reprimand, or maybe discuss. Eiji, how can you not be concerned about this detail? You do realize it means this, right? So I just really like that line. I think it goes both ways. I think it's telling that they being the writers, they leave it at that. Huh? Well, that's fine, I guess. That's fine. And then after this is when Eiji asks Logomon if he could pet him. By the way, what is it? Do you mind if I touch you? The Logomon lying down on the seat is showing the soles of its feet. There are plump paw pads on them. No. Why do I have to do what you want? The Logomon flashes its gums and bares its fangs. No good, huh? The dog I used to have wouldn't let me either. I'll kick you out of my Digicore if you keep feeding me this nonsense. And besides, I've heard enough stories about your dog already. He probably didn't think of you as his master. He was just taking advantage of you. Huh. So I just want to highlight this passage just because I think it just really, again, I'm going to be repeating myself, but this is the thing about looking at quotes, is to help, textual evidence to help support what one is stating. And I truly do believe that this helps support the fact that Logomon, again, is impatient, yet he has some patience. He's able to work with individuals, work as a community, yet there's some facts or details that he just, if he's answered it once, don't ask him again. Or if it's obvious, don't even bother asking in the first place, right? So when Eiji asked, this is obviously the second time. The first time he tried pinning Logomon, Logomon was hollow eyes, and he was not happy about that, he being Logomon. And now this time, at least Eiji, he is learning, right? He realizes I shouldn't just pet Logomon. Logomon is an individual, a sapient Digimon. Maybe I'll ask him first. That Eiji does do this, but Logomon, instead of just saying a polite no, or maybe in the future, Logomon really gets offended once again, right? So he got offended with Chumon, and now he's getting offended with being asked of this service, or being to be pet. And Logomon states, why do I have to do what you want to do, right? Again, really emphasizing how it's all about Logomon's agency right now. From Logomon's perspective, if he doesn't want to do it, then why should he have to do it? Not taking into account that they're partners and they should be working together. I know it seems really silly, but I think the story will come back to this detail, and it wouldn't surprise me when eventually Eiji is petting Logomon and Logomon is fine with it. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but we'll see. And the second part, what I enjoy about this quote is the revelation about Logomon. Again, it's really been stated, and I think it's been shown that he is impatient, but he could also be mean when he wants to be mean. There was no need for Logomon to tell Eiji, your dog did not respect you. Your dog did not see you as his master. And that's why he wouldn't let you pet him, right? I feel like that was a very mean thing to say. I'm really curious. They keep bringing up Eiji's past dog. Obviously, they're doing that to compare to Logomon, but I'm really hoping that the story actually keeps doing this and we get a little bit more information. And eventually, maybe Logomon tells Eiji, Eiji, remember when on that train I stated this to you about your former dog? Well, I was just being mean. In reality, I think maybe your dog did respect you, but he was just also very independent. He wanted to be his own dog, essentially, right? He wanted to support himself, but at the same time, he acknowledged you, right? Or something like that. Again, maybe I'm making nothing out of something, but we'll see where this goes. Again, they keep bringing it up, and I do hope they keep doing so, and they keep exploring why, or rather, they keep exploring what's the point of bringing up these past memories. So let me quickly look at my notes, make sure there's nothing that I missed. So again, really quickly, just I like how Eiji, the story does a good job of showing that, telling how he self-reflects, he thinks to himself, and he does not what he wants to do like Logomon, but when he needs to, he looks at the details and information before him, and he does what he can do. And there is an evidence that does support this. Actually, let me jump to that quote. Yeah, so here's the quote. So, hey Logomon, it feels like all the Digimon are staring at me. Well, it's rare that we have humans down here. Oh, so it's like holowizing a Digimon on a Rio train. That would attract a lot of attention. Knowing that he's unlikely to be harmed, Eiji takes a closer look at the inside of the train. The Digimon in the passenger compartment seems to be somewhat clustered. The data of many of the Digimon here is corrupted. They appear to be injured. Most of the inhabitants of Waslam are Digimon that were originally used by humans. Logomon speaks matter-of-factly, huh? Cyborg Digimon, mechanical types, and other types often used by codecrackers are conspicuous. There are Digimon that were used by humans and discarded for some reason or another. They screwed up at work or were entrusted with the security of some company's servers, but were attacked and destroyed instead. Discarded Digimon. Eiji is astonished. So right off the bat, what textual evidence to suggest that Eiji, he self-reflects and he acts upon what he does know? Well, after he asks Logomon his question, how the reason why he's attracting a lot of attention, knowing that he's unlikely to be harmed, Eiji takes a closer look at the inside of the train. So after Eiji gets his answer, why is Eiji choosing to explore? Why is Eiji choosing to allow his curiosity to get the better of him? Well, because Eiji knows nothing negative is going to occur. Logomon's already explained that on the train, it's a safe zone, essentially. A non-combatant agreement has been placed on the train and on Avenue Zero. And knowing this, Eiji knows, well, even if the Digimon feel uncomfortable with the human being here, or the Digimon may not like humans because they've been discarded by humans, he knows he's going to be safe because of the rules that's in place. I think that's very telling of Eiji's character. One, again, might think, oh, he's just being ignorant, or he's just being impatient or stupid, as the story keeps like to say. But I think that's Eiji being astute. That's Eiji being smart in the situation that he's in. And I really like as well about this passage is, again, we're getting so much world building about these Digimon. When the story first started, it really seemed like Digimon were one-dimensional a little bit. They were just tools. But I'm loving how we discover that not just are they sentient, they're sapient, and not just are they sapient, but they're abused as well. Other individuals, humans, are choosing to use these other life forms, these things that are alive, these digital creatures that are alive, and instead of respecting them as the individuals that they are, they're unfortunately just being used as tools. And once that tool has been used, once its purpose has been either expired or blunted, then they're discarded, right? I think that's a great way of telling of how humans treat not just one another, but also the other life forms that they coexist with, right? Hopefully that makes sense. I don't think that the show, or rather the show, because I don't think Digimon Seekers is going to all of a sudden start stating like statements about animal cruelty versus human behavior, right? But I think this is something that we can look into if one wanted to, unfortunately, right? And that's why Eiji is astonished, because he's coming to discover, oh my gosh, we're discarding these digital monsters when they're all sapient, right? But hopefully the human world, maybe they're not aware to the extent that Eiji is, that Digimon are alive. But then again, the professor was aware about that, right? He did state that to Eiji, and Logomon restated that idea to Eiji as well. We have to assume that government agencies, corporations, and the military, that they're going to have their own researchers, right? Even if Professor Rijinji is the leading researcher in the digital information regarding the digital world, that doesn't mean that these other groups don't have their own researchers. They may not be the leading figureheads, but again, they're researching, so they're aware of some of that information. But yes. Yeah, so that's why I wanted to look at that line, to look at Eiji as a character, and also more broadly how humanity treats, or how humanity treats the other species that they coexist with. So Eiji thinks a little. What this Wattgate does is prevent code crackers, us humans, from getting in. Yes, not only humans, it's all the Digimon in Waslam, including code crackers, hackers, and other Digimon who have been taken advantage of by humans. Huh? Are the Digimon here? All the Digimon in the subway cannot return to the digital world. This Waslam has been affected by real-world data via the network. Once a Digimon is contaminated by real-world data, it can never return to the digital world. They will never be able to pass through that gate. And who in the world decided that? The digital world system, is all I can really say. To put it in human terms, our God, so to speak, or something like one. For the Digimon of Waslam, excuse me, that was embarrassing. For the Digimon of Waslam, the inside of the wall is, so to speak, their long-lost home. Logomon, do you know what's on the other side of the wall? We're getting off here. Logomon gets up from his seat. So for two parts, I wanted to read out this quote. The first obvious portion just being, again, as the treatment of how Digimon are used by humans. and how unfortunately there's consequences. I really do appreciate this. I'm gonna get a little bit literary, but if one has ever read like Alice Walker's The Color Purple, or even like the Witcher series, oftentimes one wants to pretend that our decisions and choices only affects ourselves, but in reality, our decisions and choices affects not just ourselves, but the other individuals who are connected to us, or our relationships, be it romantic, familial, or just platonic or friendships. And this really shows us as well that once code crackers, hackers, who I would argue that hackers, they're not as uh, they don't abuse Digimon to the same extent that code crackers do. They have more positive intentions. The fact that they're interacting with Digimon in the first place, right? No matter one has a positive intent, it doesn't matter. Once that Digimon has been interacting with the human network, they can no longer go back to their real home. Their new home becomes this dysphoria. In case one doesn't know, dysphoria means where one is not able to return to where one has regularly originally has come from. Instead, one is spread out across multiple homes, and it's looking like this is what's going on with these Digimon, these long lost Digimon, a little bit. And it's a little bit, I think, sad, but hopefully something will come from this. When I say something, I'm really thinking about the end of Digimon Seekers. Maybe Logomon's going to change the system, or who knows, right? I'm really thinking about the future right here, but I don't think it's a coincidence that all of this information is being displayed, or rather being conveyed to the audience. What's going on between Waslam, how Waslam is not properly part of the digital world. I'm not gonna lie, that fact did shock me when I first discovered that. I thought the Waslam was it was the digital world, and actually Eiji actually does point this out. Just because the Waslam isn't in the digital world, deeper inside of it, isn't it still part of the digital world, but it's just the outskirts of it. And then the last part, I think it's telling that when Eiji asked Logomon, do you know what's on the other side of that wall? We're getting off here. I think Logomon did not answer on purpose, either because he doesn't know, or maybe because he's just confused about what he does know. I'm sure we're going to come back to this detail in the future. And the last quote I want to look at, next stop, 9th Avenue. Eiji turns his head. First, he has to fulfill First, he has to fulfill Ryuzenji's request and pass the Sons of Chaos entrance exam. Mapping 9th Avenue. I wonder what kind of place it is. I'll know when I get there. You seem to know a lot about Waslam, Logomon. Have you lived here before? Logomon had been stored in the Digimon linker from its first growth state. Eiji hadn't bothered to ask what Logomon had done elsewhere. He didn't even know that Digimon had a past. I don't remember. The sudden confusion confuses Eiji. So I wanted to look at this part just because I think it's telling of Eiji again, even though he's on this adventure. It is an adventure, right? He's exploring this new world through a different method that one is not familiar with. We're quite literally sending his consciousness through another living being. And yet, despite all of this excitement, he's also not just exploring this new world, but he's also doing this entrance exam. He's also making sure to keep in mind why he's doing this in the first place. I just really like this. I think it's characterization to express that Eiji, again, is not a stupid individual, that the readers and we need to give him more credit than what's being displayed, and that eventually the people that Eiji is interacting with, I think they are going to acknowledge and recognize, well, hey, Eiji has a lot more skills than we first thought that he had. And then lastly, what I want to look at as well is Logomon had been stored in Logomon had been stored in the Digimon linker from its first growth state. Eiji hadn't bothered to ask what Logomon had done elsewhere. He didn't even know that Digimon had a past. So what I like about this is further characterization that Eiji, again at the beginning of the story, it really seemed like Eiji had no respect for the Digimon, the way that he was treating the Tyrannomon. But I would argue it's because he being Eiji truly did not know that Digimon were alive. I know that statement's always constantly stated, but again, I said in the last video, what's been established is that Eiji was not aware that Digimon were sapient, right? Not just alive, not just sentient, but sapient, as in they were individuals who have their own characteristics, they're individuals who have their own agency and their own lives. Had Eiji known this information from the get-go, I think he would have been treating the Tyrannomon with a little bit more respect at the very least. I was going to say a lot more respect, but I do think he would have treated them with at least a bit more respect, and maybe even treated them more as living individuals. So that's why I really like this line. He hadn't bothered to ask what Logomon had done elsewhere. He didn't even know that Digimon had a past. So again, further reinforcement that Eiji is still learning And while he's learning, he's growing as an individual. So that's what I mean. I think I'm hoping the same thing will happen with Logomon. Again, we're seeing that Logomon's very curt, very cut, and very patient yet impatient. And we're hopefully going to see that Logomon will grow from Eiji in the same way that Eiji is growing from Logomon. Yes, so that's everything from this part. Personally, I found myself really enjoying this portion. This has been the longest note taking that I've done so far. I actually have 3 pages, 2 pages worth of summary with one page worth of analysis. I think this portion had a lot of really great information in terms of world building, in terms of characterization. And as always, I know I keep saying this with every part, but I am still excited for the next portion. I know the story has been a little bit slow or slower than most individuals would rather have it to be, but I do believe that it's going to pay off at the end. There's a reason why in that Chapter 1 trailer we see that the Digi-Police are chasing Logomon. We're seeing so far that Eiji and Logomon, they're not antagonists, rather the protagonists. So what could possibly cause that chase that's going to occur at the end, right at the end of that trailer? And yeah, I'm really looking forward to next Sunday. I always feel like that with every portion. Well, maybe not with every part, but this one does have me feeling very excited just because I feel like we're going to get more about the main story. We're discovering more about Logomon, more about how the Digicore works, more about the Digicore works, and more about Waslam as well. Again, at the beginning of the story, I thought that Waslam was part of the digital world, and in fact, I thought that Waslam was going to look a lot like, if anyone's ever seen Digimon Digimon Tamers. The digital world is very like a frontier, like a Wild Wild West kind of setting. The way that Waslam was being described, I thought that the digital world is going to be like that, but rather than a Wild Wild West aesthetic, a cyberpunk aesthetic, or more technological aesthetic. As it turns out, I was wrong about that assessment, right? Waslam is not the digital world proper, so I'm looking forward to actually entering the digital world. If you are still reading and keeping up, please do let me know your opinions. Let me know if there's anything that you're looking forward to. Is one starting to get a little bit impatient? Is one starting to feel like, you know what? I'm thinking maybe I'm just going to wait until the whole first chapter is out. If that is you, please let me know why one is feeling like that. Do you think maybe I'm being too optimistic, too positive? But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I also appreciate your patience. I'm going to do a better job. I'll try to be more organic with my summarization, with my analysis as well. Hopefully one has noticed that all my videos are not going to contain chapters or timestamps too. So hopefully that's going to be helpful. If there's anything else that I can do, such as a discussion, a question that one may have, or something that I could do better for my channel for interaction between Digimon seekers, any questions that one may have, please do let me know. Have a great day. Have a prodigious day. And take care, everyone.